Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today I'm on day 4 of By the Will for God's A Biblical Thanks. I've been really enjoying this day, and so I kind of have a plan on what I want to do here. I have this label of a song that we've been singing at church, but I want it a little bit more sturdy, so I'm going to use this card. But just to remind you that Who is the Messiah is releasing tomorrow, Thursday, November 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll have my link down below if you want to use that. That is an affiliate link that just gives me a little bit back from your purchases using that. So thank you so much for using that. But anyways, I am just making this label a little sturdier by using the postcard as a backer, and then that way it's not going to be see-through at all as well. But let me read you Psalm 100 because I've been really enjoying it lately. And it says, "A psalm for giving thanks. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations." Now, I haven't really done anything that crazy on this Bible journaling page. It's basically just a bunch of layers. I did keep this paper from last month's kit in my little cart because I knew that it could go along with the fall vibes we have going on here. And I just really, really loved that ledger look. And so that's going to give me a nice base. I am going to rip it a little bit to add some texture to the background. And also I will add some texture paste as well. But that comes in a little bit. So while I am doing all this, I did want to talk to you, kind of do a hymn study with you. I haven't done one in a really long time. I would love to get back into doing it. But today I have this little quote from the label that I did from a song that we've been singing in church, a hymn, "Jesus I Come," also known as "Out of My Bondage, Sorrow and Night." This is written by William T. Sleeper in 1887. What's really interesting about him is that he grew up in New Hampshire and was a house missionary and chaplain in Worcester, Massachusetts. So really not far from where I grew up. So that was something interesting. There's not a lot of information about him besides that he served a congregation for 30 years in Worcester. But there is some information about who wrote the music for him. So once William T. Sleeper wrote this poem, he ended up sending it off to a friend, which was George Coles Stebbins. Stebbins was born in upstate New York and later was convinced by D.L. Moody to move out to Chicago and began his ministry in music there. He only lived there for 4 years though until he took up residence in Boston and started working with the Clarendon Street Baptist Church, and then eventually became the musical director of Tremont Temple. But why I think this text goes so well with Psalm 100 is that we're talking about entering his gates with thanksgiving and that the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever, and his faithfulness to all generations. So let me read some of the text of this hymn. It says, "Out of my bondage, sorrow and night, Jesus I come, Jesus I come. Into thy freedom, gladness and light, Jesus I come to thee. Out of my sickness into thy health, out of my want and into thy wealth, out of my sin and into thyself, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of my shameful failure and loss, Jesus, I come, Jesus, I come. Into thy glorious gain of the cross, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of earth's sorrow into thy balm, out of life's storms and into thy calm, out of distress to jubilant psalm, Jesus, I come to thee." So there's actually a couple more stanzas to this hymn, but I'm going to leave that for you to check out. Make sure when you look up this hymn that you're looking up the actual hymn. There's a couple other songs called Jesus I Come. So if you need to, you could put in "Out of My Bondage, Sorrow and Night," and that should bring it up as well. So anyways, it is a really great hymn, especially timely for this month as we celebrate Thanksgiving in the U.S., but honestly, it is just a wonderful hymn for any time of year as we look to Jesus and who he is and what he has done for us. So as I come back to the crafty portion of this video, like I said before, there's nothing extraordinary that I'm doing here. I'm just creating layers upon layers. So I've added that quote from the hymn from the second stanza, and I'm adding this girl. I just liked how she looks like she's thinking about stuff. And so that's kind of how I've been this last week looking at this hymn. And I also absolutely loved these church journaling cards from By the Well for God this month. I just love the fall vibes, and it worked well with the colors of this girl. I've also used my Dymo label maker to create the title of this hymn, and so I'm going to add that actually to the left hand side of this little journaling card. I was having trouble trying to figure out where I want it, and just the left hand side seemed less busy, so I'm going to add that over there. Now, a little trick with these Dymo label makers, I like mine gets jammed a lot if I don't do a couple extra punches. If you have one, you may know what I mean with that, and so I just always do a couple extra punches and then cut it with my scissors and not the cutter on the Dymo label maker. And then I will just come in with some fussy cutting scissors, cut each word out that I want, if I want them cut out separately, and use the edge of the blade to kind of get that backer off of them. And that usually works just fine. Little tip though, if you're using these Dymo label makers, you want to make sure not to heat set them afterwards. Like if you have texture paste near it, don't heat set it because it'll actually take out your words. So little tidbit there. I have a lot of these little greenery pieces. I was glad I was looking through my stash of stuff, and I decided that this needed a little bit of something extra. So I have these gold foiled greenery pieces that I'm going to just stuff behind the girl right here on the right hand side. And I'm also going to add a couple leaves to the left hand side underneath the little file folder. Now, if you notice, I didn't get to talk about that, but the file folder, I just loved the texture of this weave. And so I just laid it open. And originally I was going to put a title on the little tab of the file folder, but obviously my title, Jesus I Come, is way bigger than the little tab. So we're just going to go with it. And I really end up liking the texture that it gives the page. So I'm adding those two little greenery pieces. They're not green. That's what kind of got me off. I've had a headache all day. And so my brain just isn't at full speed here. But yes, my gold greenery pieces behind this file folder, I'll add those to the left-hand side. And then I will also look through my stash of ephemera that I have in this little book. And then I'm going to pick out a couple little pieces to put down near the fold that I've done below the label. I ended up using some curator snippets that I had in my stash. So I'll look through those, pick those out right there, and then I will staple them down. So now that everything is good with my cluster, I'm going to actually use my Barely Arts glue to glue this cluster down to the page. Now I have to use a good amount because I have texture paste on the background, and so that kind of hinders it from actually gluing down well if you just use a little bit. You could also use some score tape or the scrapbook.com version, but I just had this on hand right on my desk, and so that is what I grabbed. To finish this page off, I will highlight my verses, which is actually all of Psalm 100. I didn't know where my ruler was, so grabbed my devotional for a straight edge. And then I will also date my page to remember what season of life I was in when I created this page, and that hymn was so motivational to me. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this miniature hymn study with a biblical thanks devotional from By the Well for God. Don't forget that Who is the Messiah is releasing tomorrow, November 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.